everyone. I welcome our guest lecturer for today, Dr. Dawodu. Thank you for accepting to be part of this. Maybe I'll just give a short brief of FAJIM Medical Foundation. It's a foundation that was founded and registered with CAC in 2018, and the main aim is to contribute our own quota to improving the health of the underserved communities in Nigeria. And apart from scholarship, which we give to students studying undergraduate, studying medical related courses, we also go to communities to give health education, and then free outreach where we screen, treat, give free drugs, and we support students. We also collaborate with other association or communities or individuals who share the same passion with us. So we started giving scholarship in 2018, and I think this batch is the third batch, bringing to over, because in the first year we gave 14, the second year 32, and this last batch 39 students. And in addition to giving them, some cash that they can use to take care of small expenses related to their studies, we also believe in mentoring them to become individuals that are not useful to themselves, but also useful to the society. So most of the mentoring sessions that we have for them are things that will improve their, that will make them discover themselves and be able to do things outside, think outside the box, do things outside the ordinary, and to not only think of academics all the time, but other ways of improving themselves so that they can be able to give back to the society. We encourage them to take part in, giving helping hand to people who are less privileged, and so on and so forth. So this is the second. This should have come up in the second quarter. We try to do once per quarter. This should have come up around June. One thing or the other did not allow it to happen. So today, we are grateful that Dr. Dawodu has agreed to be with us today to talk to us on the importance of soft skills in achieving greatness. I'll ask one of the scholars to read through Dr. Dawodu's, excuse me, let me share it, Dr. Dawodu's profile, so that at least the scholars will have an idea of who is going to be speaking to them. Okay, who is taking that? Okay, who is that?
Mohammed.
Okay, go ahead and.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be taking the profile of Dr. Olayemi Dawodu. So Dr. Olayemi Dawodu is an anatomic and molecular pathologist who holds an MBBS from the College of Medicine, University of Lagos, as well as fellowships in pathology, and Laboratory Medicine of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria, as well as the West African College of Physicians, respectively, which makes her eligible to practice in Nigeria as well as in West Africa. She's an alumni of the Side Business School, University of Oxford, Executive Education. She has over 19 years experience in clinical and administrative roles in the healthcare space, with training at the Department of Pathology, Indianapolis University, and Purdue University in Indiana, USA. She practices as a consultant anatomical pathology with special interest in gynecological pathology, endocrine pathology with emphasis on the thyroid gland and environmental pathology. Dr. Olayemi Dawodu is the MD or CEO Cleaner Lancet Laboratories, a household name in the healthcare space, and the part of the Saber Lancet Healthcare Group. She started her career with the organization in 2015 as a country histopathologist, where she built the trust of fellow consultants and effectively managed the histopathology units before being promoted to her current role in 2016. She's the board member of Cleaner Lancet Laboratories Nigeria. In her role as the CEO, she was positioned at the forefront of the business, where she provides strategic leadership, manages daily business operations, as well as she oversees the overall growth and development of the organization. She's passionate about contributing to the healthcare sector through dedicated delivery of excellent pathologic services, administrative expertise, and leadership. As an avid researcher, she has publications in the local and international journals, and she's also a reviewer of peer academic articles for the foremost national pathological journal, as well as a lecturer in anatomical pathology at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. She serves as a member of Accreditation Advisory Committee for Nigerian National Accreditation System, and she also works with a diverse population in the healthcare sector, providing a global perspective in the delivery of healthcare solutions, both in the clinical and the administrative roles. She's a sitting member of the Health as a Business Committee of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, as also a member of the Institute of Directors of Nigeria. She is a WIMBIZ mentor and also one of the first 50 founding members of the GAIA Africa, the first C-suite women-only business club in Africa. She's a member of the prestigious female-only angel investor clubs in Africa called the Rising Tide Africa, interested in promoting especially female entrepreneurs with seed investments. Dr. Olayemi Dawodu has received notable awards such as Medical Personality Leadership Prize winner 2016, organized by the African Prize for the Leadership Excellence Awards in conjunction with African Union and ECOWAS. She also received the Best Female CEO in West African Region, an honorary award at the 2017 ECOWAS Quality Awards organized by ECOWAS. European Union, she has also won from the European Union as well as UNIDO as a recognition for the implementation of a successful quality management system in the organization. She fosters a team-based and capacity-building approach to achieving organizational goals, and she is keen on the provision of excellent healthcare delivery, especially towards quality pathology and diagnostic services in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. In her spare time, Dr. Olayemi Dawodu enjoys reading books, dancing, as well as traveling, and she believes people should always put their best foot forward at every opportunity. Thank you very much. I want all of us to welcome Dr. Olayemi Dawodu. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ma'am. We are with you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, my eminent teacher, Professor Abdulkarim. And I'm very honored to be here this afternoon to join the mentees at the FAJIM Scholars Mentoring Session this afternoon. It's a very rare privilege for me to be here, and I am greatly honored. Prof, can I go ahead?
Please go ahead. You have the
Okay.
floor.
Thank you. So I was saying to Prof earlier that I didn't come with slides, which I will send to her later, but it was more with speaking points from experience. And I'm very happy to hear that the group of people I'm speaking to are from the healthcare space. So it won't be out of context in terms of some of the things that I'll refer to when I'm speaking about soft skills that we need to look at, be conscious of, and to develop. And today's topic speaks to the importance of soft skills in achieving greatness. And the way I would approach it, I also like to be interactive as well. So if I find a name, I might call you to also contribute as we go along, so it's a more robust conversation. And in this topic, there are two key words that stand out: soft skills and greatness. Most of us, especially in the healthcare space, were very used to and focused on honing and developing our technical skills, you know, getting 90 and 100 in anatomy, in physiology, and those kind of things. And as much as that is important, it is something that has been greatly researched and found out that when you go out into the workspace and, you know, you start to work, those things are important, but they are very key, important skill sets that we all need to pay attention to and to harness as we go along in our academic careers. And it borders around our soft skills, because usually most of us will not work on our own, we'll work with other people and on teams. And so it's very important to use these skill sets to drive efficiency and harmony and progress wherever we are. So I'll start with, what do we mean when we talk about soft skills? Soft skills are personal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people. Again, soft skills are personal attributes, and they enable us to interact and effectively and harmoniously interact with other people. So no man is an island. And then the second one is around greatness. What does greatness mean? Or to be great? To be great means the ability and quality of eminence that is far above average. And so it is the act of being far above average, basically, in everything that you do. And it is telling us from the topic that we have today that our soft skills that we develop and we hone help us in achieving greatness and beyond. I would also like to maybe ask at this point, while I said the definitions, can anybody give me an example of a soft skill that they know? Kafila Tishola. I'm going to call out people. That's the beauty of Zoom. Hello, is Kafilat there? Or anybody? Mohammed, who read my bio, can anybody give me an example of what they think a soft skill is? Remember, I said that they are personal attributes that we have. So they are not things that are basically taught.
Okay, well,
good communication skills.
Very good.
Leadership.
Very good. Very good. Can somebody give me one more?
Networking.
Public speaking.
Critical
Excellent.
Teamwork. Organization.
You guys can take the lecture. I mean, already. Thank you very much for all those contributions. So absolutely, those are skills that we are talking about. Being able to communicate effectively, to listen effectively, to be a team player, public speaking, being persuasive. And the beautiful thing about this is, for you to be able to discover this is something I've personally found. The first steps to that are knowing who you are. So knowing who you are in the sense of you have to do an audit of yourself. Sometimes it is during the process of doing an audit of yourself, you are probably able to articulate the attributable soft skills you already have, while we might also enumerate other soft skills that we may desire, depending on what greatness means to each person, which varies from person to person. What greatness means to me might not be what it means to Mohammed. And so first of all, you have to have a clarity of what you're looking for, what greatness means to you, and how you will achieve it. And before you can arrive at how you will achieve it, you have to identify and be able to, without a shadow of doubt, speak about who you are, what drives you, what is your why, what are the strengths that you have, that you may need to improve upon to get where you're going. So I usually will encourage that we do our self-audit. Some of us, I mean, our friends tell us all the time that, oh, we noticed that you are able to persuade people to, you know, do something or that. That's a soft skill that is very, very important in the world. And so it might be from other people's account of us, but it is very important for us to consciously be aware of what our own unique soft skills are. And when we articulate that and we put that down, then we're able to then develop a roadmap after we've done an audit to know where we are at and to be able to really speak about our authentic selves. Then we'll be able to develop a roadmap for where we want to go. Are we following thus far?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fantastic. So, and now these skills are often skills that are in contrast to, as I said, our technical skills that we develop, being able to make a good and accurate diagnosis all the time as a pathologist, all these other things that were taught. These things are not necessarily taught. They are already inherent in us. And sometimes to improve them, what we will need is coaching in terms of being able to identify people that can help us to improve on these skill sets for where we're going. So I'll just list a few of these skill sets, which some of us have already listed: effective communication skills, being able to self-direct ourselves, being self-driven, being able to solve problems, adaptability and flexibility is so important. It speaks to that statement that says that we need to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. I mean, to be fluid and adaptable nowadays is a very invaluable skill set. Emotional intelligence quotient, being a team player, having the skill of negotiation. So those are a handful of some of the soft skills that people have or that can be developed in individuals. Now, there should be considerations. Why do we need these skills? It's very important to note that when we go into the workplace, we don't work by ourselves. We work with other people. And these are the skill sets that help us to be able to work effectively with other people so that we can have a more efficient, progressive, and successful business, and even for us to be able to thrive and rise in the workplace. Usually, there's a saying that talks about executives that are employed for their technical skills are soon fired for their lack of soft skills. And I would use myself as an example in the regards of using your soft skills to get ahead. When I finished at the College of Medicine, my residency training, and thanks to Professor Abdulkarim, one of my eminent teachers and mentors, I went to work outside of the public sector, in the private sector. And in doing so, I soon realized that you really needed a different set of skills to be able to navigate some of the intricacies of the private sector. Part of which was being able to, as we said, communicate effectively within the organization and then with other colleagues that were sending their samples to me. And you also had instances where there were people you had to go and speak to send you samples that already had a mindset, you know, about where they wanted to send their samples to and who they wanted to send their samples to. And the onus was on you to be able to categorically communicate with them and persuasive enough for them to try your service. And this on a large scale, I mean, I didn't think I was a salesperson or a business development person, but I soon found out when I sat down to take an audit after some time on the job that obviously there were some soft skills that I had inherent in me that I hadn't had the reason to, you know, really use them or practice with them. And one of them was the skill of persuasion. and communicating effectively what it was that was being done, and how I could add value to whatever they were bringing to the business. So that was another way. I had to sit down to do an audit of, okay, who are you and what are the skill sets that you have? And in doing that, I realized that, there were things that I did not acknowledge. And part of the first ways to maximize and improve on these skills are for you to be able to identify what is there first and what may be missing that needs strengthening. And even for what is there, to practice it more, to become more efficient at it. So persuasion, that was one. Then in terms of working with a team, and so I think I haven't put too much context to it. I did start off as the histopathologist at Cleaner Lancet Laboratories, and essentially my job was to get colleagues and surgeons to send samples into the organization and give them their histopathology reports. In doing that as well, I had a mandate to get more people to trust in the brand and to come on board to do business with us. So that's why I referenced the area of persuasion. Now, not too long after that, I had to change positions within the organization. So I moved from being the histopathologist to the managing director. And in the role of the managing director, it had me going beyond the scope of histopathology, which was somewhere where I was at home and, very comfortable with. And I had to then work with a more diverse team. Apart from the local teams of people in finance, in business development, stores, and all that, I also had to deal with a board. And the skill sets that comes with dealing with a board, I soon found out is so much more different than when you're just an employee doing your job. And for me, one of the key things that I soon quickly had to orientate myself about is that you can't do anything alone. The importance of being able to play within a team was so important. So being a team player was something that I had to practice some more, and being able to ensure that I sit down to study those that I was meant to lead, and those that were my team members, to be able to get whose strengths were in this area and whose weaknesses were in that area. And the importance of that was to be able to delegate effectively. This comes back to the fact that all of us don't have the same soft skills. Some people are very persuasive. Some people know how to negotiate. Some people know how to solve problems and all that. The person that is self-driven. So you have to effectively use each person's soft skill on the team to ensure that the objective is achieved. And you yourself as the leader have to be able to be very adept at identifying everybody's skill set so that you use it effectively for the general good and objective of the organization. And in that position as well, I learned how to navigate a very complicated board. People that have their own different agendas, and that particular one was something I would say if there's a skill set called native intelligence, because it was with people of different nationalities that look at different things before they can, accept whatever you've come to speak about. And why was that important for me? As the managing director, if you have a board that you are not able to convince and is not cohesive, there will be no progress for your agenda. And I had to learn that you had to go back end, understanding each person's peculiarities to speak to it and to convince them to agree to it before you then come to the table to collectively state what it is you need an approval for. And that is an invaluable skill set, because if you're not able to do that, you will not succeed at the end of the day. Another thing that, hello?
I said meeting before meeting.
Yes, ma. So it's the meeting before meeting, and people don't take it seriously. It is so invaluable for success and progress, ma. And then in terms of our own space, Can somebody give me an idea of one or two soft skills that's in the healthcare space? I'm happy everybody here is in some way or the other in the healthcare space. What is a skill set? Because, you know, back end, after when we graduate and we interact with one another, sometimes we see that there's that very critical soft skill that a healthcare personnel should have that some of us do not have. I don't know if anybody has an idea. You guys have contributed wonderful soft skills, but for healthcare space, can any good communication skills? Absolutely. The one I'm talking about is empathy. It is so important to be able to empathize in the healthcare space, because most of the people that come to us are people that are, you know, suffering from one ailment or the other, and they usually are not coming. Hello? Emotional intelligence, very important. Being able to read the other person's emotions, being sensitive, patient, beautiful, active listening, because it is by active listening that we can get all the facts that we will need to be able to help these individuals as well by combining it with our technical skills. Great interpersonal relationships, very important. And in emotional intelligence, it is learning to treat people the way you want to be treated. Is a very important skill to have, because it helps to bring out more productivity in the people that we are working with and that we're leading. So empathy, listening actively, being understanding, and of course, great bedside manners are very important for us in the healthcare space. Nowadays, when personally I'm looking at hiring people, I don't underestimate technical skills, but I'll be honest with you, I don't place it above the soft skills that the person has, the skill of being teachable. Because some of the technical skills, yes, we've gone to school, we've gotten them, can even be trained, but somebody who's got the wrong attitude can be a very, very bad mix to any team or any organization's progress. So for me, nowadays, it's not who has the right technical skills for the job, but it is who is the right fit for the team. And if you remember, I mentioned earlier, a team cannot be made up of the same type of skill sets. You have to have, you know, different skill sets that are brought to the table to make it a complete and robust team. Are we still together? So what I'm talking about is getting the right cultural fit when we're doing recruitment. It's not a matter of that the person had distinction in this and that, but people nowadays, when you go for interviews, are looking for soft skills that align and will fit into the culture of the organization. So being personable, being teachable, these are very important skill sets. Being collaborative, being able to work on a team. And interestingly, some of these things are without us consciously knowing. We are already practicing them and exhibiting them. I give, for example, at home. So I usually laugh because in hindsight, when I started thinking, okay, where did I get being persuasive from? I never felt that I was persuasive. Then I realized it also stemmed from my nuclear family. I come from a family of 5 girls and I'm the middle child. And believe me, it's you have to have a very wonderful skill set of being diplomatic and being able to navigate through and being persuasive with very strong charactered women. And for me, I didn't, you know, first of all, pay attention to that. But what am I trying to say? There are some of us that because we haven't really sat down to think about it, there are so many soft skills we have that we just need to be able to articulate them and then now begin to consciously do things to hone them. Reading books, coaching, and improving upon those things as we go along. Some of us were sports people, and so it means we were exposed very early to team dynamics, having team spirit, being a good team player, not being self-serving, but looking out for the common good of, you know, the entire team, not being self-serving. And I dare say there are a lot of people that you meet outside in life generally, and not just in the workplace, that you see lack that. They are very skewed about self and don't really care about what happens with the dynamics of the others that are in their team. Is there any other thing that maybe anybody can also contribute as well in terms of having an epiphany or an awareness as to a soft skill that they didn't really pay attention to ab initio? I've given 2 examples from my end. So Ganiat Akinyemi. Hikmot. Because I want us to kind of, be interactive. We've stated some of these skill sets. Is there anyone that comes to mind that you maybe were not so conscious about, that you've discovered about yourself as a positive soft skill that you have? Stress management. Thank you very much, Bisola. Anybody else? So if you don't want to speak up, you can also type. Another, negotiation, very important, because when you go into the confidence, when you go into the workplace, it is very important to be able to negotiate with your team members within your team, your staff, and if you're into business, to be able to effectively negotiate with other people is an important part. One thing we did not speak about that also affects us while we are in school now, and even when we go out, is time management. Thank you, Wahid. Thank you very much. You just took the word out of my mouth. That is an excellent skill set to have. Time management, being time bound and managing your time judiciously. It is such a progressive and important soft skill to have. And I think it's not one that is very common to a lot of us. So when you have somebody who can do that on your team, it's invaluable, because you saddle them with the responsibility of manning, the rest of the team in coming and meeting up with the timelines, scheduling, so that you're able to use your time judiciously, especially when one is juggling a lot on their plate. Time management is very, very important. Now, how do we improve on soft skills? Can anybody? Openness to criticism. Rafiat, excellent. We have to be very, very open to feedback. Reading books, very good. So being open to, not necessarily criticism, but positive feedback, so that we can use that to improve ourselves. Taking courses, reading books, listening to podcasts, having a coach. Those are ways that we can use in improving, our soft skills. Problem-solving skill, and it's so important in the world. A lot of people say that in the African context, the typical African child does not develop the skill of problem solving. They feel that we cry 1 times 1, 2 times 2, but the positioning and orientation that we have from our young days, which is something that people are incorporating into educational curriculum now, is the importance of problem solving cannot be overemphasized. It's a key skill that is needed in the world right now. Speaking to that, and then when we now discover these skills, we need to practice. So we need to open ourselves up to opportunities that help us. Adaptability and flexibility. The world is very dynamic, and I think COVID even taught us that it is so important to be able to adapt, whether it is self or an organization or a system. You must be fluid. You have to be very agile. You can't be stuck in your ways, because that can truncate, progress very quickly. So adaptability is very important. And adaptability helps to be able to transcend and work with any set of group of people. Working with Gen Z is very different from working with the baby bloomers. So you must be very adept and skilled in being able to transcend all the generations that you have the access to be able to effectively manage everybody, knowing their peculiarities to have a successful outcome in whatever it is that one is doing. I think I've touched on more of it. And Prof, I'd like to just maybe go back again to speak about the flow of what I mentioned starting with it. That soft skills are things that are inherent in us, they are in our characters, and we have diverse and different soft skills. But more importantly, to be able to maximize these soft skills for greatness, we need to first of all know who we are. So you must do a self-audit first, being able to identify what it is that is your own soft skill. And like I said, it could be from self-discovery, or it could be from feedback from people that are around us that tell us, oh, we noticed that, you have this particular trait, blah, 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 blah. Taking audit of that and then discerning where is it that I want to go as regards greatness. Do I want to become an international speaker worldwide? Then you look at what is in your kitty and look at what it is that you need to do to develop that particular skill set to be able to leverage where you want to go. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
Hello, okay.
Yes, ma.
Yes,
Yes, ma. We are with you, ma.
So basically, that's it. So first of all, we need to know ourselves. We need to make a list of what those skill sets are. And then we need to develop what I call a roadmap. And for me, what I try to do every year now is to take an audit and to see how well I'm faring in those skill sets that I've identified that I want to improve upon. And personally, I take a lot of courses to improve on myself. I do have a handful of coaches that I meet with for certain areas of interest of skill sets that I want to develop. And somebody mentioned something earlier. The art of networking cannot be overemphasized. It is such an invaluable skill set to be personable, to know how to meet people and gain and let them also gain interest in you as you have in them. Because before you reach out to a mentor, you obviously have identified the person. And part of the ways is to learn about the person and look for instances where you can meet the person to also try to see if you can foster a relationship that you can leverage on. And I've been going to conferences in recent times and I'm very impressed. When I was in medical school, I didn't learn early to attend conferences that are around things about healthcare and co. But I see that this current generation are very well versed in that. Most times I go for a medical conference, I see medical students there. I don't recollect when I was a medical student going for, I'm talking about professional seminars. And they're actively there meeting with people that, inspire them already and to mentor them. That is a very invaluable asset. When we hear that statement that says your network is your net worth is very, very important. It's not all about money. Networking correctly can open doors that no amount of money could ever pay for you to get through. And having the right network can get your name mentioned in the right places, with you obviously positively representing yourself to those people and leveraging off their own expertise and their network as well is an invaluable asset in every aspect of life. I cannot tell you how much that has worked for me personally, in terms of people that have been able to meet and in places where you wouldn't imagine, they bring you up to the table for opportunities to leverage on. So those are also channels to greatness as well, in that doors that you are not able to open, but you network with the right people. And the word is to be intentional and deliberate. Because when you make this roadmap, it is that you've identified this is where you want to go. So you then have to be intentional in following through on how you will get there. Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we are with you, ma'am.
Okay. So you have to be intentional in how you get there. So what are the things that we need to look at collectively? You have to have clarity of vision. What is your vision of greatness? It varies from person to person. You have to have character. Character, which is commitment to positive values, which is in and out of season. Committing to quality values. People align with people that have good reputation and good character. You also have to have a conviction. What is your conviction about greatness? What is your conviction about what your objective is and where you want to go? You must be fully committed to that conviction. So there must also be commitment to the vision that you've laid out in your framework. And there must be consistency as well. Consistency is also part of what gets you recognized. Like Professor Fatima Abdulkarim is known for being an extraordinary international scholar, consistently churning out medical professionals that are all around the world. So there must be consistency as well. When your name is mentioned, what is said about you, credibility. And credibility comes with repeatedly producing the same positive impact or result every time. Communicating what your value proposition is. That also attracts people to you if they look you up or whatever in terms of communicating with you and connecting with you. And then coaching and contribution. So being communal. This, what Prof is doing is part of what we're talking about. Contributing to the society. Giving back, even with all her great achievements. Contribution is very important in stamping our names and stamping ourselves in the sands of time for people that have created impact wherever we are. So I think that is basically that I have in basically going through and summarizing. I would open now that you can ask questions and create scenarios, and then we can talk about this further. Thank you. Olaoye Mohammed. You said, do you think some of these skills can be burdensome sometimes? To be honest with you, not really. I think most of the soft skills that we've aligned here are amazingly positive soft skills that help things to move along and people to interact very effectively in the community or in the organizations where they are in. But if you would be specific, what comes to mind when you say, is it a burden? Which one of them would you think is a burden? Being able to negotiate, I don't think is a burden. Being able to communicate effectively can never be a burden. It gets things to go along correctly. So which one, if you have anyone in mind that you're thinking about as a burden? I personally do not look at the soft skills that we've listed or any of them that I can come across as a burden. If anything, I think they help to elevate what it is that we have with our technical skills.
Okay, Ma, I have a question now.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture. I think I've gained a lot from this lecture and even jotted a couple of things down. But my question goes down to when you mentioned about assessing and reassessing yourself regularly to see how far you've gone. Yeah, you made mention of majorly taking courses and all of that. But personally, I think there should be more to self-introspection than that. And to me, I just feel like, do you think there are other ways we can like carry out this self-introspection from time to time? Say we want to assess how good we've become in time management or effective communication and and stress management? Do you think, like, what are the practical things metrics we can use to like assess how well we've grown over a particular period of time, say 6 months or 1 year or 2 years? So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question. So in terms of time management, let's take time management, for example. I think you can use tasks that are given, because most things in terms of tasks, they are time bound. And so you can do an audit of maybe 6 months. If you had a project or a task that you had to do, how many of them did you carry out that you met the timeline you were supposed to meet? How many of them were out of it? Okay. And I said part of what we can use to improve our time management is scheduling. Having a schedule, things to do, and having them timed on a calendar and taking on. And technology has helped us to be able to do that in recent times. Giving a timeline, this is the timeline that I'm going to spend to read my emails. This is the timeline I'm going to spend to write back. This is the cutoff for when, for someone like me who is a mother, when I go home, that I'm going to focus on being able to be accountable to my children. But in terms of time management, I think one of the practical ones would be in terms of tasks that are to be carried out, how many of them have been met within the timelines that were stipulated for them to be met? How many of them were out? And then being able to identify why, so that one can continue to work more on improving on those things. There are people that use that effectively. 1 hour to do this, and once the 1 hour is off, they move on to the next task. It takes a lot of practicing with it and discipline to begin to use it judiciously. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, man. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think Olaoye has something there.
Yes, please.
As I assume we are not in a world of fair play, and it can be burdensome, especially when it comes to empathy-related situations or emotional intelligence, where other people in play might want to take advantage.
Sorry, I need to get that.
Maybe trying to respond to the person that, okay, is the same person that asks whether this skill can be burdensome sometimes.
Okay, so I think I understand. In terms of, so let me put this in context. Are you asking that, one person having a particular skill set can be taken advantage of and there's an abuse? Is that what you're referring to? By other members?
Yes, ma, like in a team.
Okay, I understand. By other members of the team. Yeah. I think that is where leadership comes in. Okay? Leadership in the sense of being the team lead. So you're the one that then has to be very conscious to make sure that you're being protective of each member of the team, that other people are not taking advantage, do you understand, of the person's strength in delegating and in generally managing and supervising how everybody's skill set at the table is being adequately utilized and not abused. And this comes from holding each person accountable. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yes, ma, I understand,
So that would depend on the team lead, so that another person, one person, part of the team does not feel burnt out. So you must be very conscious, and there must be metrics for holding people accountable with what people don't like to hear that, with what would be deterrent or punitive measure if that trend or habit is noticed by another team member. For me personally, that is how I balance it. I know most of the strengths of all my team members, and I'm intolerant of anybody abusing the other person's sensibilities or their expertise. So I don't know if that answers the question for you.
If he's thinking about it,
yes, my
self, individual, how do you protect your skill such that it's not abused?
I would have to take a minute to think about it. For me personally, I really feel there's never a reason for us to suppress these amazing skills that we're speaking about that take people to the highest level, which is what I'm hearing you say. I don't feel that, you know, honestly, I don't think I'll be able to answer that. The only way I can answer it is how I've answered it in the context of being in a team. But in terms of you having a soft skill that is progressive and a value to someone, I don't see how it can be abused. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Except if he's saying that, okay, because he's empathetic, and then a lot of people will come all the time to ask for his favor, and then he keeps, you know, he keeps
Also, then
and then he's not, he doesn't.
No. If that is that,
it, you know. So
I like that. Okay, thank you, Prof. That's a good example. Being empathetic is a most beautiful and invaluable soft skill to have in the healthcare space. And to be honest with you, I don't even think we have enough of it in the healthcare space. However, I get what you're saying. The onus is then on you to have boundaries. But you also have to be sensitive enough to discern when it crosses over from being, it crosses over into being abuse. I don't know if it makes sense, Prof. Yeah, we should never fall away from being empathetic, but I think it will then depend on us to be able to discern and identify, maybe it's an individual, when it becomes a pattern and a trend, then you have to put up a boundary to ensure that your sensibilities, your sensitivity, and your skill set is not abused. But please, by no means should we downplay such beautiful skill sets. So it would be to be conscious to know, no, this is where you cut this off because it now borders on being abuse.
Yeah, and I tell you from experience, the number of messages, email messages, because I'm out there, you talk about FAJIM and all of that, and people think that you're a millionaire. You know, you receive all sorts of requests from here and there. And if you say that, yes, you are empathetic and you want to respond to, of course, for anything at all, there has to be boundaries. And
yes,
I can just emphasize, you know, there has to be boundary. And then you also must have emotional intelligence to be able to discern, is it, you know, is this normal or is it going out of bounds?
Of context, exactly.
So it's very important that every point in time, you must also be checking yourself, you know, am I doing too much? Am I going beyond am I taking more than I can chew?
Exactly.
So one
and
has to be cautious.
Exactly. It's very important not to burn out, especially beautifully, like Prof said, empathy and being charitable. Those are the areas, very true, that people can take advantage of, you know, without any drawback on what it means for the person that is carrying that out. So that is on us to be able to, you know, discern and then say, this is it. This is where I don't move beyond, you understand, because it then becomes an abuse to self.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, please, can you check the comments box? There's a question there.
From which one, Mohammed?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So
I said,
yeah, read it. Yeah, go ahead.
I said, okay, lastly, ma'am, is there a line, or how can you draw a line between persuasion as a soft skill and cohesion?
That is very, very important. So, again, I look at this in context of an organization, and so where the issue of cohesion comes, being persuasive is good. being persuasive is good. It's not about bullying. It's probably about using facts, and not just facts, but understanding the person you're speaking to, where they are coming from, what their values are. Do you understand? Before you embark on engaging to persuade. Those are very important parts as well, because it guides you on how you approach whoever it is you're having the discussion with as regards persuasion. Where coercion comes in that you worry about is where there's a play of power abuse with it as well. I don't know if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, and it can be, I don't want to say the word hard. One needs to be very careful, especially when it is a situation between a superior and a subordinate.
Yeah.
That is where coercion comes in. To be able to carefully manage the interaction. And again, I think, again, it might also depend on what one is trying to be persuasive about. The context of the persuasion is also important, but I think it's a fine line, because persuasion is not being forceful or what's the word, draconian. Do you understand what I mean? It's about communicating and almost like discussing on a level base in terms of having the discussion with the person and probably putting forward maybe facts, data, things of the past that have worked as to why it is the best option for them to go with whatever your objective or what you're trying to achieve is. So I don't know if he answers that.
Yes, ma. You have answered the question anyway. So just like more like there's a thin line. You have to just be careful of like not crossing the line.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with a subordinate. I believe it's something leaders we need to be, or team leads, you need to be very sensitive. And at every point in time during those kind of discussions, you must always leave the caveat and the avenue of free will and being able to decide to go which way you want to go. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
leaving that door open and the opportunity for them to know they don't necessarily, I mean, in as much as you're putting up the facts and your superior arguments, there's the caveat of the will of them exercising their own will at every point in time. Even though what you're driving at is for them to come to your own value proposition or whatever you are putting across to them. So you can't be using forceful words, you have to do this or those kind of things. No. The communication has to flow in a way where we're on a level playing field, even if you're the person superior in terms of persuasion.
And those should come earlier, even before you putting forward the points in persuasion. Come, yes, I'm the boss, right? But this has nothing to do, it's not going to, whatever decision you take,
Yes.
at the end of the day, it's yours, and it does not have anything to do with, your maybe promotion or.
Yes, impacting on, absolutely.
It's not going to have any negative effect, whether you do agree to my position or not. One should make that clear
caveat
from the beginning. So, the person too will be free in taking decision.
Very true. Thank you for that addition, Prof. Exactly, imbibing that trust. So what strategies or techniques can we employ to ensure a win-win outcome during negotiations where both parties feel satisfied and their interests are met? So interestingly, if you ask me, I feel negotiations are psychological exercises. Okay? And I mentioned something earlier, this is to Toyib. When you go to negotiate, you don't go and negotiate blindly. So you go with your facts, okay? You go with the reasons why you believe the person should eventually arrive at agreeing with you. But more importantly, you have to do your own assignment about the person you're going to meet. Do you understand? In terms of a strategy. So you have to learn about who they are, what are their beliefs are around whatever it is you are going to go and negotiate about. You have to try to ensure that you have superior information or argument as to why what you are bringing to the table is what would be accepted at the end of the day. There's actually a big part that is psychological in negotiations. And I think the singular thing I would say to you is you going very well prepared with your facts as to why you believe what you are negotiating about, your own stance is what should be arrived at. But very importantly, for you to do your research about the people, whether it's an organization or a person you're going to go and negotiate with, to understand them fully and to already have a strategy that you use to say, because you know they're going to ask you this, you already have a response that is backed by facts to get them to agree with you. I don't know, Toyib, does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. It makes a lot of sense, ma'am. Thank you very much.
So you don't go in blindly. You don't go in to negotiate blindly. You go in with facts.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In addition, you should not run down the position of the other party. Okay? You don't run their own position down. You
Absolutely.
only put up, the superior argument.
Argument.
Okay, if we do it this way, you're going to achieve this, and if you do it your own way, you may probably not achieve as much as what you are presenting. And then you should also not be so fussy about, saying that it's your own position.
Absolutely.
Agreed upon. The aim should be win-win, like you said. You should be ready to shift ground.
Compromise, Prof.
Yes,
Compromise when negotiating.
When negotiating. So
absolutely.
Go with, okay, yes, I want to achieve 90% or say 80-70% so that my own position will be the uppermost. But then you should be ready so that if you end up with 50-50, nobody is losing. And in negotiation, that is the best.
Yes.
It's the best where somebody gains something and
somebody
you lose, and then so at the end of the day, you don't really have a loser. Everyone wins something.
It's balanced.
So it's balanced.
Thank you. Hanifat, thank you. So your question says, particularly, I love the way you speak. Thank you very much. And communicate effectively. Please, how do we improve on our communication skills? Practice makes perfect. And so I'll be honest with you. I'm one of the shyest people you can come across. And it's been something that I've challenged myself with over time to improve upon. So the more you do it, the better you get. There's also something I do as well. And I used to have difficulty watching myself after I've done a presentation, but then I had to start doing that, as well as watching other people who are communicating effectively and taking notes to kind of practice. So before you come for something like this, whether it's for my children or for myself, I can record and practice the session before I go there. But for communication, practice makes perfect, is what I would say. Prof, you know, Prof is a worldwide reputable speaker. That's my own approach.
The more you do, the better. You just keep challenging yourself.
Yes.
And have that. You say no matter how pro you are, there are presentations that you go for, and then your heart will still be jumping, that you still be anxious.
Yes.
But then the best is that when you're going, you are sure that you know what you are going to talk about. You'll be well prepared, and then rehearse very well. And don't be afraid, because most times you may be anxious before you start, but once you are well prepared, as soon as you start, that's it. It will go, and you begin to talk and talk, and before you know it, you already have captured the audience, and the kind of response that you get from your audience too will give you more courage to continue
Yes.
to talk. So you feel happy with yourself, and so the confidence comes, and then you continue on and on and on. And the more of that you do, the better you get at it.
Absolutely. So Hanifat, to also paraphrase what Prof is saying, preparedness, practice, and doing it afraid. You get there and gaining the confidence each time that you finished, with one of them.
This one, yeah.
Yes. So good evening, Ma. Please, can you share the tips that helps one in improving on public speaking? I think it's part of what we've spoken about now. So researching and preparing very well for the speaking engagement. Practicing. You always be afraid. I don't think there's any time I've had to speak that I'm not, but still doing it afraid, but preparing, practicing, and continuing to just get more engagements is what I found. After some time, it's less, but it never 100% goes away that you'll be afraid. So those are part of the tips. Having your points, having a flow to what you want to say are some of the tips as well.
Yeah, definitely. Your target audience.
So also, do you think your target audience? Yes.
It does.
It does, absolutely.
It does all the time, especially if you know that your audience are,
your professors,
yes,
or international experts in the area that you are going to, for sure. It's very different from when you're speaking to people that are like mentees and co. So the audience absolutely matters.
So you've got to know your audience too. Know your audience.
You do.
And then when you know your audience, then you be prepared.
You
so
tailor
even if
it.
there are big people in the field that have done, just make sure you prepare very well. Make sure if you are, using slides, make sure your slides, the points are clear, come down to a level that you yourself, once you understand what you're talking about, there's nothing that anybody will come and bamboozle you. If you don't know, you don't know. You say, oh, I'm sorry. Just give your whatever that you know about it and move on. So don't think that people, once you are well prepared, know your audience, address what you think, they may ask you.
Yes.
That it happens to us a lot of times. We come from low LMIC and you go outside to go and present papers, and you see people who have been talking about, who are maybe, or the people that have done a lot of molecular stuff on a particular area, and how much are we doing here? You think, but a lot of time you tend to look down on even your own achievements.
Absolutely.
And now think that, oh, okay, because of the presence of so and so, they have written textbook of pathology, or when you get there, what are you going to talk about? Even that your small area, just make sure you master it well, your slide clear, don't plagiarize, only what you've done, and then, and rehearse before you go. So.
And I can assure you, in Prof, what you're saying, it is that unique experience and authenticity from the LMIC that is the value that we take to those conferences. Because it doesn't matter how highfalutin or they've written books, that is the value add and the diversity that we talk about, at those kind of meetings that we bring to the table, Ma. So does that, okay. Yes.
Yeah, I have one last question. This is more like a question and a request, two in one together. So I read through your citation yesterday before this mentorship session, and I realized that you've somehow grown a lot in the private sector of healthcare to a very large extent. So my question is, as medical students, first, how do we position ourselves to these opportunities? Because for someone like me, I'm leaning more like towards public health in later on in as a practice of where I would finally settle in, and I'm taking a couple of steps in that direction. But I would just like to know what like your advice you'd give to a medical student or a younger version of yourself of what you think I can start doing now and how I can position myself for these opportunities. That's one. And two, which is more like my request. I don't know if you are open to maybe probably one-on-one mentorship. It might not be very, very close, maybe probably your LinkedIn or your email, where I can reach out once in a while to you and sort of like we can communicate if I have questions or I have things I need or like meeting people, all of that. That's just.
Thank you very much. Is this Mohammed?
No, this is Timilein.
Timilein, thank you very much for both questions. And to the second question, this is to everyone on here. It would be my absolute pleasure that you reach out to me. I will leave my 2 email addresses here. I think my LinkedIn is open. I would be delighted in any way that I can speak with you or link you if you need to speak to anyone. That would be my pleasure. To the first question, the presentation I had today was kind of from my own experience. So when you ask me about people that I've met, and it was exactly what I had to do. The thing about self-audit, like I said, I started in the organization as histopathologist, minding my business, and also speaking, just communicating with consultants and my specialists. Now, when I had to go into management, the honest first thing I did was to sit down and take an audit of where I was, or who am I, and what task had been given to me. And I put down my strengths and I put down the areas where I knew I needed help. And part of the areas I knew I needed help were in networking more, because I wasn't only going to sit as a pathologist. So I had to make a list of people that were mentors or people that I felt I had to get in touch with in terms of getting to know. I made a list, who knows who. They say there's 3 degrees of separation. Somebody always knows somebody. So that is there. Then also following them and sometimes it was going to conferences where I knew they would be. And then I will make my way around the room to introduce myself and make a connection. So this is in line with meeting people. And from there, to be honest with you, I started meeting people even in different sectors, apart from healthcare, in government, in areas that I never thought I would look into. I'm in a club of angel investors, which you saw. I would never have dreamt that before, but one person introduces you and it's that. And I have no issues introducing mentees or young ones to anybody that they would like to meet that I have in my network. It would be my pleasure to do that. Another thing I had to do was I knew I wasn't a financial guru. So I made a conscious effort to do finance for non-financials, and I do it every 2 years because I have to refresh that. So part of what it is you have to do is to look at where you're at, where you're expected to go. And my new role required me to go in a certain direction, and I had to make a roadmap of how I was going to get there. I give God the glory. I didn't achieve all of it, but I achieved a substantial amount of where I needed to be that were time bound. I don't know if that answers your question. So in some of the things you see, it was what I spoke about earlier about being intentional. I was very intentional about what I wanted to achieve and how and who may have been the players that will help me get there. So that was kind of how I approached it.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll round up at 6 o'clock. So if there is any other question or comments. Okay, Dr. Dawodu, will you put your link?
Yes, ma'am. I'm writing it already, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Dawodu. Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Ma, I want to ask about something. For example, why you are in medical school before you started housemanship and house job and all of that? Now, did you at any point see yourself as the CEO at any point, or even the specialty that you did? That did you at any point see yourself going there as at medical school, or after medical school you became trainer? Because let me try to use myself as an example, which is why I'm asking the question. I'm currently in my final year. But personally, I know I'm someone I've been right from my student level. I've been in marketing, sales, finance kind of stuff, and I've built myself in that enterprise. I've worked with different brands and stuff like that. But there's this part of me that I know I like medicine. I don't think I want to leave medicine for it, but I like it. So it is conflicting. Some people end up, after medical school, they don't do the medical certificate and they move on to that. I don't think I want to do that.
Else.
But at the same time, I still want to. I don't know where I can still find the balance between marketing and medicine and still be, because right now I don't think I have the special. Like I said, I was asking, like, when did you get clarity? Okay, I wanted to go to pathology or something.
Recording in progress.
A clear one for now. A clear one for now. I know I like psychiatry so far, but I don't have options. I don't have options like other people might. Okay, see people in my class. Oh, you want to do gynecology? You want to do cardiothoracic, something, all those kind of stuff. But it feels not intimidating, but it feels like people know what they want to do, and you're just winging it through and stuff like that. So I just want to. I don't know if you understand my question. That's why
I do. I absolutely do. No, so I'll be honest with you. I was sure I was clear what I wanted to do when I was in medical school. In terms of specialization, there was never a doubt in my mind that I was going to specialize, for sure. That was not debatable. And I was sure I was going to be a pediatrician. And things changed as I evolved. I got married when I was doing my house job, and I had my baby. And then I came back to finish house job, and I started NYSC. And that was when I took a turn away from pediatrics. I worked at Unilag Health Center, and I used to do calls, and my son was a few months old. I had an experience where I would go for a weekend call, and whenever I came back, I would come back to a child that was ill. And not the kind of illness that would be at home. We would have to go on admission. It happened like 2-3 times. And at that point, I started to reevaluate if this was going to work, in terms of I already started a young family, and I saw what my constraints were in terms of looking after him. I didn't think I was going to have the bandwidth to be able to focus on pediatrics like I had desired, because I thought weighing it, I would be at work and then I will have this ill child. And so I started looking at other options. Pathology as a specialization, I usually would joke and say that I'm a congenital pathologist, because my father is a pathologist, and my father trained. I was born while my father was training in pathology. So I usually joke that I was already destined this way, and I was the one that was fighting the battle. Pathology, I weighed other options, and before I ended up with pathology, because I'd always had the exposure, and I'd always found it to be an intriguing, interesting specialty that impacts very greatly when you look at what we do. And so for me, that was how I wrote the primaries to come into pathology. So does that answer your question? CEO, did I ever think I was going to be a CEO? Absolutely not. Without a shadow of doubt. I did not even phantom it. My trajectory was very straight. I was going to finish pathology, and I was going to come back to the College of Medicine and the Lagos University Teaching Hospital as a consultant pathologist and a lecturer. I took the job in Lancet as a histopathologist because those things were not yet ready. And while I was working there, I just worked the way I know how to work. I interacted the way I knew how to interact. And I was then approached by the chairman of the organization, which is an international organization from South Africa, that they wanted me to take the role of MD CEO. I was afraid at first. I refused at first. But then afterwards, I thought of all the great things I could do with the platform. A pathologist, not even histopathologist, being in a laboratory business was what I just thought was an invaluable opportunity a lot of people would have given an arm and a leg for, and I decided to take the leap. And then I decided to also build myself up in the areas where I needed to get more, more expertise on the job. And I just gave myself a timeline and a roadmap and began to build those skill sets within that time. So Timileyin, I don't know if that answers your question. So I didn't always know. Some people are lucky that they do.
Yes, it answered my question. Thank you very much, ma.
All right.
All right. If there is no other, did I see any other person asking? I want to ask if it's feasible we could reach out. Okay, yes, you already did. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Dr. Dawodu.
Thank you very much, ma.
If I can summarize that she has told us that soft skills are those little things that are inherent in us. Many of them we're born with, some of them we develop along the line, but most of the time we don't even know that we have this. So you need a lot of introspection and maybe, feedback from people around you to be able to discover the skill sets that you have. And those skill sets, when you maximize them very well, it can, lead you to greatness. So for you to know what skill sets you have to, sit down, audit yourself. What do you know how to do best? Do you know how to communicate? Have you been commended once in a while, that you know how to persuade, or that you are empathetic, or that you have native intelligence, or that you are emotionally intelligent, So some of these things, by the time you sit down, you will be able to know which of them, are your own skills. And once you are able to discover them, then the next thing is, how do you improve upon them? How do you sort of make them to make them to become more prominent? And how do you use them to get into greatness? In this world that we are now, we need all of this to be able to, soft skills, it's not about how much A's. Yes, being intelligent, having all A's and all of that is what we cherish, and everyone that has become great, as one way or the other, might not have gotten all A's, but then you still must be intelligent.
Diligent.
But for you to excel, you need all these soft skills to survive in this world, in the 21st century. You need all the soft skills. So how do you improve on them? Either reading, but once you identify them, you can, then look at someone who will be able to, someone who will be able to train you better. So coaching. Or, reading, or attend, take deliberate efforts to go for courses, networking, attend conferences that will address some of these things, so you'll be able to exhibit and bring to the fore the skills that you have and be able to use it to achieve greatness. So I want to thank Dr. Yemi for doing this for us.
Thank you.
When the topic came, even I was wondering, okay, all right, and then look at it. It's really been something very, and she already said, Yemi is the daughter of my own teacher, Professor Elisha. and grew up when we were residents, that time, and then came back to become a pathologist, and she's doing very, very well in the private world there.
Thank you, Ma.
Really very, very proud of her. It is a world that many of us are not are afraid to go into, and she has gone there. She has represented us very well, and she's doing excellently well. We continue to pray for her to continue to excel.
Thank you, Ma.
Very much. She's played the role of a teacher, of a mother, of a wife, and a CEO, and she's doing it very well. So if she can do that, all of you too can do.
Absolutely.
And even excel some of us, whatever that we have achieved. Our prayer is that you will even achieve more. So
Amen.
don't look down upon yourself, whatever that you want to do. Look for how to get there, get the roadmap, look for who is going to help you to get there, and there you will get by God's grace. So
Amen.
thank you very much once again, Dr. Dawodu. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma.
And others who are not FAJIM scholars that have joined us today. So wish you all the very best. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. It was an honor to meet all of you. And please reach out. I'm available. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.